What's up, Tailgaters? My name is Tailgate Nate. Welcome back to my channel today. We are continuing with our weekly series of looking at top 10 players from around the league. We've done quarterbacks, running backs, and wide receivers. We're looking at the final position on the offensive side. Sorry, offensive linemen, not going to have time for you this year. But the top 10 tight ends in all of college football, it's also pretty darn hard to judge offensive linemen, at least for me. So that is also why I'm not doing that. So, hey, thank you guys so much for clicking on this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you like what you see from me, if this is, if you find yourself coming back to my channel or you're a college football fan just like me, then, hey, please do hit that subscribe button. Channel's almost doubled in size over the past couple of months. Really do appreciate it. You can also leave a like and share the video. Helps push the video out to as many people as possible. And leave a comment down below telling me your thoughts on the tight end prospects, tight end groups this year in 2021. Only thing I ask is just be kind to everyone. So let's talk about tight ends in 2021, right? The tight end position is never as deep as the wide receiver position. However, this year, there are some very, very good tight ends. Of course, we're going to kick off with the top 6 honorable mentions. Chase Allen just barely missed out on the list. At the last minute, I did switch someone else in. I just thought was not necessarily better than Chase Allen, but just that I like to have a bigger season than Chase Allen this year. Chase Allen, definitely the number 11 guy. He is phenomenal, but also not the best tight end on the Iowa State team. We'll look at him in a little bit. Greg Dulcich coming back for the UCLA Bruins. He also has his quarterback coming back in Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Should have a prolific season for the Bruins. Austin Stogner for the Oklahoma Sooners. Look, Spencer Rattler is a Heisman favorite. Oklahoma looks like they're going to do some great things this year. Austin Stogner is a very good tight end, should have a really good season. Will Mallory, kind of a late bloomer to the NFL prospect and a little bit of a smaller frame, but he is a very, very good tight end, a reliable target as well on the offensive side. Plays at Miami. De'Aaron King is his quarterback. He's an honorable mention for me. You also have Peyton Hendershot of Indiana. You have Michael Penix coming back. Hopefully he can be healthy because Peyton Hendershot, as long as I can remember him being at Indiana, has always been a reliable option. And then Josh Wiley, the tight end there at Cincinnati, has a very good quarterback in Desmond Ridder, plays under a very good system under Luke Fickell. Josh Wiley is a phenomenal tight end as well. All these guys should have big seasons, but there are 10 guys that I do like more than the 6 guys you see here. So let's kick off with those 10 guys. And we're going to start with a player from the Mountain West. The Mountain West has a lot of really good tight ends. The Pacific Coast, a lot of really good tight ends out there. Get to know the name Trey McBride. Look at what he did last year in the shortened Mountain West season. Of course, plays for the Colorado State Rams. 22 catches, 330 yards for 4 touchdowns. I believe Colorado State played 6-7 games last year. That's a really good stat line for playing that few of games. He has very reliable hands. Now, in my opinion, they're not necessarily wide receiver level type hands, but he will catch it pretty much wherever you throw it to him. And then he's not going to cough up the football either. Not going to let the football go. Has a very tight grip on it. He's a very reliable target. When you put the ball in his hands, at least you're going to get some yardage for your efforts. Lots of grit and toughness Trey McBride has as well. He'll play through anything, play through an injury, play through cramps. Like Trey McBride is just that tough. Lots of grit. He has a huge winning mentality. Now, of course, with a program like Colorado State, that proves useful sometimes, as Colorado State isn't a team that usually wins a whole lot. But Trey McBride has that mentality, and that's all you need. That's all you need at a program like Colorado State, right? Have that mentality. Will he be the Rams' top target? I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say yes, he will be their top target, but I don't think it's going to come without some competition. However, Colorado State has lost a lot of good wide receiver production in the past couple of years. I think it's time that Trey McBride steps into a huge role as a pass catcher for Colorado State. To me, he's at number 10. Number 9 for me is a guy by the name of Jake Ferguson. Plays for the Wisconsin Badgers. Look at what he did last year, shortened Big Ten season, 30 receptions, 305 yards and 4 touchdowns. He's big, he's physical, and he's a very safe option. Tight ends usually run a lot of slants or curls or ins and outs, like a lot of short routes. You don't necessarily see tight ends go deep a whole bunch. Again, that is unless they're one of the elite tight ends in the nation, which Jake Ferguson absolutely can be. He's just more used as like a safe option, right? And he's a safe option because he has a large catch radius. Will catch anything within his wingspan plus maybe 2 feet. He's not afraid to go out and dive for that ball. And then when he catches the ball, he can do some really, really nice things in the open field as well. One of the best at making something out of nothing is Jake Ferguson. But when you look at the tight end job description, to me, you serve 2 purposes. 1, as a secondary pass catcher to the wide receivers, and 2, as an extra offensive lineman to help in the running game. And that's where Jake Ferguson struggles a little bit, right? Is in the running game, is being able to hold that other guy off. Now, the Big Ten has a lot of fantastic defensive linemen, especially on the defensive end position. You can look at prior examples. A lot have come from Ohio State. There have been some that have come from Iowa. A lot have come from Wisconsin as well. Lots of very good defensive players, even in the linebacking positions as well, that play in the Big Ten. And it's Jake Ferguson's job to try to block them. So it's not necessarily a denote to his skill set, excuse me. But Jake Ferguson, that is something that he does have to improve if he wants to be an elite and NFL-ready tight end. Other than that, maybe his name gets called in April. We'll see. Jake Ferguson for me at number 9. Number 8 is a guy that you need to pay attention to this year. Short and Mountain West season last year. His name is Cole Turner. Talked about him before. We just did my Nevada preview on Monday. 49 catches, 605 yards, 9 touchdowns in a shortened season. Now, was not the leading receiver. That went to Romeo Doubs, and there are some other really good wide receivers at Nevada as well. But Cole Turner, when you look at his scouting report, when you look at everything, right now, I didn't see a whole lot of necessarily like comparing to NFL players, but there was this that jumped out to me. I think it was an article on CBS looking at different prospects in certain positions. And when Cole Turner's name came up, so did the name Travis Kelce. And now going back and watching tape, yeah, dude, I can absolutely see it. Plays like Travis Kelce is a reliable weapon with big, soft hands and has some great playmaking abilities. Get downfield, is also a very reliable option on the pass game and can block if need be. Is he a top NFL tight end? I don't think there's really any doubt in my mind that we're going to hear his name called in April, but how much does he improve his draft stock in 2021? I think he can improve it a lot. Of course, I think it's going to get overshadowed by guys like Doubs, Carson Strong, but Cole Turner, I think, is a no-brainer to go at least somewhere in the NFL draft come 2022. Turner for me at number 8. Number 7 for me is my team's personal tight end, and that's Jeremy Ruckert. Look at what he did last year. 13 catches, 151 yards, and 5 touchdowns. And I wanted to address that first because those of you out there might be saying, that's not a good stat line. Why? Like, why is that a good, like, that's not a good stat line when you've seen the other tight ends on this list? Like, 151 yards is nothing. Well, we're going to start with the thing at the bottom of the slide, right? He needs explosiveness among the nation's best group of wide receivers. And it is the nation's best group of wide receivers that play at Ohio State. Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson are top 3 options in the nation and could very well be the first 2 wide receivers taken in the NFL draft in April. You also got guys like Julian Fleming, Jackson Smith, and Jigba, and Emeka Egbuka. There are lots of good players catching passes for Ohio State this year. But when you look at Jeremy Ruckert, he has terrific catching ability, an NFL-sized build, so he's built like a tight end, but plays like a wide receiver. And that's going to be huge on Ohio State this year, especially for a team that is starting a new quarterback that hasn't even thrown a college pass in a game that mattered, right? So whether it be C.J. Stroud, whether it be Jack Miller, whether it be Kyle McCord, neither of those guys have thrown a college pass in a game that mattered. And I think Jeremy Ruckert's going to be a nice, safe option if nothing deep is down. Ohio State has a lot of deep downfield threats, but it's going to be up to the quarterback to be able to get it there. And I think especially early in the season, you can see Jeremy Ruckert getting very involved, especially with Luke Farrell gone. He is that number 1 tight end for Ohio State, And for me, 7th best tight end in the nation. Number 6 for me is the Clemson tight end, Braden Galloway. I feel like Braden Galloway gets underrated at times. 27 catches, 369 yards, and 2 touchdowns last year. Had the best quarterback, in fact, the best NFL prospect in the entire nation last year, throwing the ball to him in Trevor Lawrence. Now has what could be an equally impressive, what could be an equally impressive quarterback in DJ Uyunglele. He has tremendous physical ability, does Braden Galloway. And not only that, for the tight end position, I say for the tight end position, he's very quick and agile. Tight ends are not known to be the speedy ones on the field, right? You leave that to the wide receivers, to the running backs. He has exceptional agility for his position. The one thing I will say with Galloway is work on your route running. Now, it's not something that's a huge deal with tight ends, but it's something that tight ends usually should be pretty solid at to break down coverage and to get those short little gains to make something out of nothing, right? Tight ends, especially in Braden Galloway's case, might be used for that because he's going to get overshadowed. He's got guys like Justin Ross, Frank Ladson, among others that are coming back for Clemson this year. So definitely not the number one pass option, but he is a very reliable pass option. If he can work on his route running, I see no reason why he can't be a top 5 tight end in the nation. For me, he's at number 6. Number 5 for me is a guy by the name of Brant Kuithe. Please get to know this name if you don't already, or if you know who he is, learn how to pronounce it, because I'm telling you, you're going to be hearing it a lot at the NFL level sometime in the future. We're going to look at what he did in 2019. Now, I know Utah had a larger sample size than most teams in the Pac-12 last year, but I just don't think his stats from 2020 do it justice. His 2019 stats really do it justice. 34 catches, 602 yards, 6 touchdowns. That's a very good catch or yards per catch stat there. But also, rushing stats? Hold on a second. Yes, rushing stats for a tight end. 6 carries, 102 yards, 3 touchdowns. Had 6 carries in 2019. 3 of them went for 6. He has very rare, and might I even say elite athleticism for his position. Tight ends never get the ball on jet sweeps, on little flick out screen passes. Brant Kuithe does, because he is that good and that athletic of a player. He has lots of size, has the tight end size, but going back to that athleticism, he's very quick off the snap. Whatever his assignment is, as soon as that ball is snapped, he does it. Whether that's blocking, he's a very physical blocker as well. Whether that's passing, his route running is pretty good. No wonder NFL scouts are like foaming in the mouth over this kid. He really is a great player. Not necessarily, my question for him is not necessarily will Utah be good again, but can he and Charlie Brewer get some chemistry going, right? So, of course, Charlie Brewer is coming in this year as a transfer from Baylor. We all know what he did at Baylor in 2019. Can he do it again? And especially, can he do it with a player that is as good as Brant Kuithe? We'll have to wait and see, but Brant Kuithe, for me, is at number 5. What do you have to say negative about Isaiah Likely? He's at number 4 for me. Plays for the Coastal Carolina Chanticleers and has one of the better quarterbacks in the nation than Grayson McCall. 30 catches, 601 yards for 5 touchdowns. He has very good speed and strength. Strength is something that tight ends usually have a lot of, but speed at his position is kind of something that the NFL style prospects have, and Isaiah Likely has a ton of it. He'll take those short routes that he runs and he'll cut them upfield, and then he'll be gone. Not necessarily as fast as a wide receiver or running back, but he can get pretty darn close, and he can hold his own against speedy guys in the secondary. I just talked about it a little bit. Has great playmaking ability. Catches those short routes, makes a cut, and he's gone. His playmaking ability is fantastic. He's a very explosive playmaker for the limited amount of touches that he does get. And limited, I say limited, but really he is really one of the most trusted players on this offense. Is he a top target for Grayson McCall? There are other guys at Coastal Carolina that are very good wide receivers. I think Isaiah Likely is the best pass catcher on the team. However, I mean, just look at the catch he's making right there against Texas State. like over the shoulder, hands in an awkward position, and he still makes the catch, and he makes those look easy. No reason to not like Isaiah Likely. He's at number 4. All right, number 3 for me is Cade Otton. So to me, kind of the opposite argument with Brant Kuithe. His 2019 stats don't necessarily do it justice for me. And I know Washington had one of the lesser sample sizes in teams out of the Pac-12 last year. So we're going to look at his 2020 stats. Keep in mind, this is only through 4 games. 18 catches, 258 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Washington surely does trust him as a pass catcher in this system. Dylan Morris is coming back to start. Will he be the starter? I'm thinking yes, right? But there are some other guys coming in. Of course, you got the number 1 quarterback in the nation coming in this year to Washington as well. I think Dylan Morris gets the starting job, but I don't think that comes without some competition. And if that's the case, well, Cade Otton could really flourish this year. He's advanced and physical in his run blocking, as well as his passing game as well. He'll fight off any defender that he might be matched up with in the defensive front 7, because of course usually play a linebacker on the tight end. He has superb toughness. I just mentioned that, can hold his own against anyone. He needs to become a red zone threat. Now, that's no discredit to him and his skill set. I just think this Washington system needs to trust him more in the red zone, needs to trust his catching ability more. Washington is being hyped up a lot this year, right? And they can have a really nice and solid season. But for Cade Otton has got to prove that he is a force to be reckoned with, especially in that red zone past the 20-yard line. If he can do that, might be the first tight end off the board in April. But Cade Otton for me is at number 3. Number 2 for me is the other Iowa State tight end, and that's Charlie Kolar. Iowa State fans, you finally get to see him on this list. 44 catches, 591 yards, and 7 touchdowns. It was kind of a question of whether or not he was going to come back this year, and decided to use his extra year of eligibility, come back. Charlie Kolar is a phenomenal tight end. When you look at his frame, it's not necessarily what you would picture as a tight end, right? But he plays much stronger than his frame. Not saying he doesn't have the strength or the athleticism to be a tight end. When you look at him, you don't necessarily think tight end, which isn't a problem. It might, drive some scouts away, but he plays a lot stronger than that. So for the scouts that stick around, they get a nice show when they watch Charlie Kolar. He's a great catcher in traffic. Look, that's something that is really done well by wide receivers. And the best wide receivers at their position are the best catchers in traffic. Charlie Kolar also makes that look easy. And part of that is also credit due to his quarterback, Brock Purdy, who he has also formed chemistry with over the past couple of years. He's also really good at breaking down defensive coverage. That is something that Charlie Kolar is really good at. Can really break down defensive coverage. That's why he's a great catcher in traffic. But he's got to figure out this one-on-one, this man-to-man situation. If you throw it up for Charlie Kolar, odds are he's not necessarily going to come down with the football in that scenario. And that's just from the tape that I personally watched. So he's got it. And that's also what some of the scouting reports say as well. So he's got to figure out that man-to-man thing. But if he can break that down, if he can start winning those one-on-one battles more reliably, Charlie Kolar, phenomenal tight end. Perfect, in my opinion, if he can improve on that. But to me, yes, Charlie Kolar, number 2, fantastic tight end. But to me, clearly the first tight end that should be taken off the board in April is Jalen Wydermyer. To find something that Jalen Wydermyer is not good at. Oh, wait. Okay, you've had your time to look. 2020, 46 carries, 507 yards for 6 touchdowns. He's the best NFL tight end. He's the best tight end that's NFL ready in 2021. I phrased that horribly. Just go with me. Best NFL talent in 2021 at the tight end position. There we go. He's excellent in every facet. Short game, long game, run blocking, pass blocking. He's phenomenal. Will the Aggies' new system be his downfall? Only concern I have. And it's not necessarily a new system because, of course, no new head coach, no new offensive coordinator, same things like that. But there will be a new quarterback starting. Will it be Haynes King or will it be Zach Calzada? A lot of people seem to think it's going to be Haynes King, but Zach Calzada is going to fight to get that starting job. And depending on which quarterback starts, Texas A&M could play a different style of offense than they have in years past. because one out of the two of Calzada and King one is a very pocket type passer, which I think Wydermyer will flourish, and then one is a dual threat, and we'll have to see. We'll have to wait, but definitely I think should be one of, if not the top options on this Texas A&M team. Yes, there are some good wide receivers, but Jalen Wydermyer is the best tight end in college football, period. That is my opinion. A lot of other people's opinions too. He should be the first tight end taken off the board in April, and that's going to do it for my top 10 tight end list. We're going to leave it right here on Jalen Wydermyer. Please do leave a like if you enjoyed. Hit the subscribe button. Share the video. You can leave a comment down below. Tomorrow, we're going to do another power rankings of a Power 5 conference. And tomorrow, we're going to look at the ACC. So the ACC is up tomorrow for power rankings. Remember to play hard, but tailgate harder. I'll see all of you guys tomorrow when we go more in depth about the ACC. Goodbye.